Show and tell time. I'm just gonna dive right in and talk about a couple different things that I think are interesting about this piece, and then one little broader thing that I think portends the future. Um, these pieces are they're pretty small. Um, they're just about an inch and a third, 1.3 um, inches. So for me, that's kind of small. Um, and these are well, I'll just say sculptural format pieces. And I think the main thing I was trying to achieve here, and this is because I'm working on some bigger things too, is that I've been machining objects for 20 years now, and I find it's pretty easy, or not easy, but it's much more approachable to design intricate surfaces and geometry that are solid, right? They have um, textures and things on the surface, but generally internal spaces are reserved for hiding hardware or just doing mechanical things to help with assemblages. But really, it's a much more difficult task to make something that has an interesting interior space. And even though these are pretty small, they're an open framework, and I was really just trying to come up with a composition that sort of lent itself to considered interior space. So I think I've done that here, and this is, it's a small sketch in that regard, and hopefully will lead to something bigger. Now, the way these are assembled, again, they don't move or anything, but they assemble sort of interesting, is that this bore inside of here it's not a straight bore, there's no shoulder or anything. It's a spherical bore, so concave radius on the inside here. And that is the locating surface. So I also made this neat little screwdriver, and the way that this assembles is you have to pass through the other side. So this is a division of 3 so that I always have access to the opposite bolt. And I'm gonna pop one of these little fingers off of here so you can see how it's assembled. Oops. All right, so as you can see, this is the little custom piece of screw that I made. And this is the finger, and these are machined using offset turning. And everyone who follows my work knows I love to do crazy little offset turn things. But the interesting thing is that when I machined this this radius here, this concave thing, the geometry dips into the radial bore in such a way that it creates an opening that's larger than the screw. Originally, I'd hoped to have something where you could actually view the arm from the other side, but that's for another day. But the main point I want to get at is that this opening is bigger than the screw. There's no way to create a hole here or drill a hole that would create a shoulder that you could use for a location fit or any sort of location geometry. So the thing that aligns this is not the hole, but the fit of this arm and this screw together. So obviously this seats into the radius and gives you your rough fit in this direction and sort of your angle direction. But what really brings all this into alignment is that this screw has a radius on it on the shoulder, and that radius matches the radius of that internal bore, so that when you tighten down the screw, it actually pulls this arm into alignment in this direction, and then the constraint of how that seats in the radius also aligns this angularly as well. So all of that is just down to how those two radiuses interact. And so I thought that was an interesting compositional thing, and that sort of was the guiding engineering challenge, I guess, for the piece, and lent itself to that composition. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is materials, because I guess, I don't know, we've for people who've been following the work for a while, there's always been a constant drumbeat for me to tackle exotic materials. And the thing I want to say about that, and I hope it comes off correctly because I don't want to offend anyone, is that so my approach to exotic materials has been one of just avoidance up until now, but and part of that is because anyone who follows metal sculpture or follows machined metal objects out in the community knows that there's a trend towards coming up with a design and then just sort of producing that design in every material combination under the sun, including exotics and Timascus and all that. Now, I've certainly done my share of designing pieces and offering them in every anodized color under the sun, and I've done a lot of not a lot, but I've done pieces where I'm working with exotic hardwoods and I'm offering a lot of variety there. So my stance isn't entirely logical, I guess is what I'm trying to say, but I've always sort of been leery of exotics, and especially that trend towards offering every exotic or just opening the door wide to just experimenting in that way, just simply because I thought, for me, it's always felt a little novel and a little distracting in terms of what I'm trying to achieve with sculpture. And so it's not an entirely logical stance, but I felt that if I was going to approach exotic materials, I wanted to do so with some intention. And so what I've decided and what I'm doing here is that I chose my material. I chose superconductor because obviously it's gorgeous, and I designed to that material, right? I came up with a composition that I thought best suited that material and best highlighted that material. And I think going forward, that's going to be my approach. So if I employ other exotic materials, like maybe something in Timascus, I want the designs to be tailored to that specific material. So it's not going to be this free-for-all. And that's all I really want to say about that. I think anyone out there that's doing cool work in lots of different materials, I totally support them. I'm glad they're in the community making interesting things. So it's not really a judgment so much as just me trying to explain the way that my brain works in that regard. So yeah, I'm going to offer these in these two designs. Obviously, the design for stainless is a little different than the superconductor, and for those who don't know what superconductor is, I'll be sure and include something in my blog explaining that, but for the purpose of this video, I think that's all I really need to say. So that's the gist of it. I just wanted to get the piece out there, and I think it's a pretty interesting start of the year, so looking forward to hearing what you guys' thoughts are. Thanks.